The old archive smelled of dust and forgotten secrets. Thorak moved through the narrow corridors with careful steps. His scaled skin reflected the dim blue lights that lined the walls. He was a Velkari warrior, tall and powerful with sharp eyes that missed nothing. For 3 cycles he had searched through these forbidden records, looking for something that would change his fate. The Velkari Empire controlled half the galaxy. Their ships were everywhere. Their armies were unbeatable, but Thorak wanted more than to be just another soldier. He wanted his name written in the stars. He wanted other species to whisper his name with fear and respect. His clawed hand moved across the ancient data terminal. The symbols on the screen were old, from a time before the current empire. Most Velkari could not read them, but Thorak had studied the old languages in secret. He knew that real power came from knowledge that others ignored. The screen flickered. New information appeared. Thorak leaned closer, his heart beating faster. There, hidden in layers of corrupted data, was a coordinate, a location in a quiet part of the galaxy. Next to it was a single word in the old tongue: Earth. Thorak felt electricity run through his body. Every Velkari child heard the old stories. Long ago, before the Empire rose to power, there were others who ruled the stars. The stories called them the Ancients. Some said they were myths. Others believed they had been real but died out thousands of years ago. The records were unclear, destroyed in the many wars that shaped the galaxy, but one name appeared again and again in the fragments that survived. Humans. The species from a world called Earth. The records said they had built wonders. They had fought wars that shook entire star systems. Then suddenly they vanished. No more signals, no more ships. Just silence. Most believed humans had destroyed themselves. That was the usual story. Species that grew too powerful, too fast, always burned themselves out. The galaxy had seen it happen before. It would happen again. But what if the stories were wrong? What if humans had simply gone quiet? What if their world still existed, forgotten and undefended? Thorak downloaded the coordinates into his personal device. He erased his tracks from the archive system. No one could know what he had found, not yet. He left the archive building and stepped into the bright light of the Velkari homeworld. The city stretched in every direction, massive towers reaching toward the purple sky. Ships flew between the buildings, carrying soldiers and merchants and slaves from 100 conquered worlds. Thorak walked through the crowded streets. He needed to think. He needed a plan. A warrior commander like him had access to ships and soldiers, but taking them on an unauthorized mission into unknown space was dangerous. If he was wrong, if Earth was just an empty rock or did not exist at all, he would be punished, maybe even executed. But if he was right, if he found the legendary homeworld of the Ancients, if he claimed it for himself before the Empire even knew it existed, then he would have power beyond imagination, ancient technology, lost knowledge, perhaps even weapons that could challenge the Emperor himself. The risk was worth it. 3 days later, Thorak stood on the bridge of his warship. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. They were good soldiers, loyal to him personally. He had chosen each one carefully over the years. They would follow him anywhere, even into the unknown regions of space. His second-in-command, Vrask, approached. "Commander, the fleet is ready, but the crew is asking questions. We are heading away from our patrol route. Where are we going?" Thorak looked at the view screen. Stars stretched in every direction. Somewhere out there, hidden in the darkness, was Earth. "Tell them we are investigating an old signal, possible smuggler activity. Nothing they need to worry about." Vrask nodded, but his eyes showed doubt. "And the truth?" Thorak smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "The truth is that we are about to become legends." The journey took 12 days. They traveled through empty space, far from the major trade routes. This part of the galaxy was quiet. No colonies, no stations, just old stars and dead worlds. It was perfect for hiding something valuable. When they finally arrived at the coordinates, Thorak felt his breath catch. There on the view screen was a blue and green world. Clouds swirled in white patterns across its surface. Oceans reflected the light of a yellow star. It was beautiful. It was alive. "Scan the planet," Thorak ordered. The science officer worked quickly. "Commander, I am detecting massive amounts of electromagnetic radiation. Radio signals. Energy readings consistent with industrial civilization. There are cities down there. Millions of life forms." Thorak felt triumph surge through him. Humans, they were real. They were still alive. And they had been hiding here, forgotten by the rest of the galaxy for thousands of years. Any defense systems? Military installations? He asked. The science officer checked his readings again. Nothing, Commander. I detect some primitive satellites in orbit. Basic communication devices. No weapons platforms. No shield generators. Their technology level appears to be pre-spaceflight. Maybe early digital age, Thorak laughed. It was too perfect. The mighty humans, the legendary ancients who once ruled the stars, had fallen so far. They were primitives now. They had probably forgotten their own history. They would not even understand what was happening when his ships appeared in their sky. Prepare the invasion force, Thorak commanded. We will take the planet intact. I want the cities captured, not destroyed. There may be archives down there. Records of the old human empire. Technology we can use. Vrask looked worried. Commander, should we not report this to the Empire first? This is a major discovery. The High Command will want to know. After we secure the planet, Thorak said firmly, I will present Earth to the Emperor as a gift. Already conquered. Already mine. He will have no choice but to reward me greatly. The crew moved to follow his orders. Landing craft were prepared. Soldiers checked their weapons. Battle plans were made. It would be easy. One small primitive world against the might of a Velkari warfleet. The humans would not stand a chance. Thorak looked at the beautiful blue planet on his screen. He imagined walking through human cities as a conqueror. He imagined finding their secrets. He imagined the Emperor bowing to him when he returned with such a prize. He did not know that every move he made was being watched. He did not know that ancient sensors, older than his entire civilization, had detected his ships the moment they entered the system. He did not know that deep in the darkness beyond the outer planets, something vast and patient was waking up after a very long sleep. The Velkari fleet moved closer to Earth. The invasion was about to begin. And the galaxy was about to remember why humans had once been feared. Far beyond the orbit of Neptune, in the cold darkness of the outer solar system, something stirred. The station had been waiting for 3,000 years. It hung in space like a sleeping giant, its surface dark and silent. No lights showed. No signals transmitted. To anyone passing by, it would look like just another piece of space debris, another rock floating in the void. But it was not debris. It was a guardian. Deep inside the station, ancient systems began to activate. Power cores that had been dormant for millennia started to hum with energy. Sensors that had been watching in passive mode for centuries suddenly switched to active scanning. The station's artificial intelligence, called Sentinel, opened its digital eyes and looked at the solar system it had been built to protect. Sentinel processed information faster than any biological mind could imagine. In microseconds, it reviewed its last memories. The year had been 2247 by the old human calendar. Earth had been at peace. Humanity had spread across the solar system, building colonies on Mars, mining stations in the asteroid belt, and research facilities on the moons of Jupiter. They had been preparing to reach for the stars. Then came the warnings. Ancient alien ruins had been discovered on Titan. The ruins contained records of terrible wars that had consumed the galaxy long ago. Humanity learned that they were not alone. They learned that space was dangerous. They learned that young civilizations were often destroyed by older, more aggressive species before they could defend themselves. So humanity made a choice. They would hide. They would pull back to Earth, dismantle their colonies, and go silent. They would watch and wait until the galaxy was safer. And they built guardians, powerful defense stations hidden throughout the solar system, to protect their homeworld while they slept. Sentinel was the greatest of these guardians. It had weapons that could crack planets. It had shields that could stop stars. It had been built by humanity at the peak of their technological power, designed by the brightest minds of that generation, and then it had been left alone, waiting for the day it might be needed. That day had come. Sentinel sensors detected the Velkari fleet. 12 warships moving in formation toward Earth. Their weapons were armed. Their shields were active. Their intentions were clear. They were invaders. The AI ran through its protocols. First, attempt communication. Second, issue warnings. Third, if threats continue, neutralize them. Sentinel had been programmed to value life, even alien life. It would give these strangers a chance to leave peacefully. A signal transmitted from the station. It was in the old human language, but also in mathematical patterns that any technological civilization should understand. The message was simple: unknown vessels. You are approaching a protected system. Turn back now. This is your only warning. On Thorak's command ship, the communication officer looked confused. Commander, we are receiving a transmission. It is not from the planet. The source is somewhere in the outer system. Thorak frowned. What does it say? The officer played the message. Thorak listened to the strange sounds and watched the mathematical symbols appear on his screen. His translator worked on the language patterns. After a moment, the meaning became clear. A warning, Thorak said with amusement. Someone is telling us to leave. Vrask stepped forward. Commander, perhaps we should be careful. If there are defense systems we did not detect, from where? Thorak interrupted. Our scans showed nothing. This is probably an automated message. Something left over from the old human empire. A recording that has been playing for thousands of years with no one to turn it off. He laughed. It means nothing now. But Thorak was wrong. In the outer darkness, Sentinel noted that its warning had been ignored. The alien ships continued on their course toward Earth. The AI moved to the second protocol. It would demonstrate its capabilities. Perhaps a show of force would convince the invaders to retreat. Sentinel activated a single weapon. A beam of coherent energy, invisible to the naked eye, reached across millions of kilometers in an instant. It struck the space just ahead of the Velkari fleet. The beam lasted for only a fraction of a second, but where it touched, space itself seemed to burn. A massive burst of radiation exploded in front of the warships. Alarms screamed on Thorak's bridge. The ship shook from the shockwave. Officers shouted reports. The view screen showed a blinding flash of light where empty space had been moments before. Report, Thorak roared. The science officer's hands shook as he checked his instruments. Commander, an energy weapon of unknown type was fired from the outer system. The power reading was impossible. It would take our entire fleet's reactors running at maximum for a year to generate that much energy. And this weapon fired it in less than a second. Vrask grabbed Thorak's arm. Commander, we need to withdraw. This is not what we expected. There are defenses here. Real defenses. Thorak pulled his arm free. His pride was wounded. His great discovery was supposed to be simple. A weak planet, easy to conquer. Now there was something out there with weapons that dwarfed his entire fleet. But he could not turn back, not now. Not when everything he had dreamed of was so close. It was a warning shot, Thorak said, forcing confidence into his voice. They are trying to scare us. But if they wanted to destroy us, they would have fired directly at our ships. They are bluffing. We continue. The crew looked uncertain, but they obeyed. The fleet moved forward closer to Earth. On the planet below, billions of humans went about their daily lives, unaware that an alien fleet was approaching, unaware that an ancient protector was preparing for war. Sentinel watched the invaders continue forward. The warning had failed. The demonstration had failed. They left the AI with no choice. Protocol 3 was now active. Neutralize the threat. But Sentinel had been built by humans, and humans believed in proportional response. The AI would not use its planet-killing weapons against 12 ships. That would be excessive. Instead, it would use precisely the force needed to stop the invasion, nothing more. Sentinel's manufacturing systems came online. Inside the station, machines that had not moved for 3,000 years began to work. Matter was converted into energy, then back into matter in new forms. Within minutes, Sentinel had constructed 500 small defense drones. Each one was no larger than a human fighter craft. Each one carried weapons that could cut through the Velkari warships like paper. The drones launched into space, moving at speeds that would crush any biological pilot. They accelerated toward the Velkari fleet, covering the distance in hours instead of days. Thorak saw them coming. His sensors detected the approaching objects, hundreds of them, moving in perfect formation. Defensive positions, he ordered. All ships prepared to engage. The Velkari fleet was powerful. They had conquered dozens of worlds. Their ships had fought in 100 battles. Their weapons could destroy cities, but they had never faced anything like this. The drones arrived. They did not slow down. They did not broadcast demands. They simply attacked. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 17 minutes. The drones moved through the Velkari formation like dancers, too fast for the enemy weapons to track. They fired precisely, cutting through shields and armor with beams of light. Velkari ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Some tried to run. The drones followed them. Some tried to fight. The drones destroyed them. Thorak watched his fleet die around him. He realized too late what a terrible mistake he had made. These were not primitives. Earth was not undefended. The humans had been waiting. They had been ready. And their technology was beyond anything the Velkari Empire had ever encountered. His ship was the last one left. The drones surrounded it, weapons pointed at his hull, but they did not fire. Another message came through, the same voice as before, calm and emotionless. Leave now. Tell your empire what happened here. Tell them that Earth is protected. Tell them to never return. Thorak's hands shook as he gave the order to retreat. His ship turned and fled, jumping to faster than light speed as soon as it cleared the system's gravity well. Behind him, the drones returned to Sentinel. The station watched the survivor go, knowing that the message would spread. The galaxy was about to remember humanity. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Thorak had returned to Velkari space broken and defeated. His flagship was damaged. His crew was traumatized. And his story was impossible to believe. But the sensor recordings did not lie. The Velkari High Command watched the footage again and again. They saw their warships, the pride of the Empire, destroyed in minutes by unknown craft. They saw weapons that burned through shields like they were nothing. They saw technology that should not exist. Within days, every major power in the galaxy knew what had happened. The Velkari tried to keep it secret, but secrets like this could not be contained. Traitors talked. Diplomats whispered. Intelligence networks carried the information to every corner of civilized space. Earth. The humans. They were real. They were alive. And they had just destroyed a Velkari fleet without effort. The galactic community reacted with shock. For 3,000 years, humanity had been considered extinct or mythical. Old species remembered the stories their ancestors had told. Young species had never heard of humans at all. But now everyone was searching their archives, looking for any information about this mysterious species that had suddenly revealed itself. What they found made them afraid. The oldest records spoke of human expansion during what they called their golden age. Humans had been explorers, scientists, and warriors. They had built ships that could cross the galaxy in weeks. They had created artificial intelligence that rivaled the gods. They had fought wars against machine rebellions and won. They had terraformed dead worlds and brought them to life. And then, at the height of their power, they had simply vanished. Their colonies went dark. Their ships stopped flying. Their signals ceased. For 3,000 years, there had been silence. Most species had assumed humans destroyed themselves. That was the common fate of races that grew too powerful too quickly. But the truth was different. Humans had not died. They had hidden. They had been watching. And now the galaxy knew they had been protecting themselves with weapons that made the current powers look like children playing with toys. On a diplomatic station near the galactic core, representatives from a dozen species gathered in emergency session. The chamber was designed to accommodate many different body types. Some delegates floated in tanks of liquid. Others stood on the floor. Some hung from the ceiling. All of them were afraid. Ambassador Kelros of the Havani Collective spoke first. The Havani were an old species, with long memories and longer lifespans. We must discuss the human situation. The Velkari attacked their world and were annihilated. This raises serious questions about galactic security. A Trillian delegate, her crystalline body chiming softly, responded, "Questions? This is a threat. An unknown species with weapons beyond our understanding is sitting at the edge of civilized space. We know nothing about their intentions. We know they defended themselves," said a Mordesh representative, his four eyes blinking independently. "The Velkari invaded them." The humans responded, "That seems reasonable to me." "Reasonable?" The Trillian's voice grew louder. "Destroying an entire fleet in minutes is reasonable? What if they decide to expand? What if they want revenge for being forgotten?" Ambassador Kelros raised a hand for silence. "We are speculating without information. We need to make contact with Earth. We need to understand who they are and what they want. And if they refuse contact," asked the Trillian, "what if they destroy any ship that approaches? Then we will know they are hostile," Kelros said calmly. "But until we try, we are simply reacting out of fear." The council debated for hours. Some wanted to send warships to show strength. Others wanted to send scientists to show peaceful intentions. Finally, they agreed on a compromise. They would send a small diplomatic vessel unarmed with a message of greeting. If the humans were peaceful, they would respond. If they were hostile, at least only one ship would be lost. On Earth, in a research facility in South Korea, Daehyun stood in front of a wall of screens. Each screen showed different data streams: satellite feeds, radio transmissions, news broadcasts. All of them were reporting the same thing. Something had happened in orbit. Something big. Daehyun was a physicist who specialized in unusual energy signatures. For the past week, he had been tracking strange readings coming from the outer solar system. The readings were consistent with technology far beyond anything humanity currently possessed. He had reported his findings to his superiors, but they had dismissed him. Space was full of strange readings. It probably meant nothing. Then 3 days ago, every deep space telescope on Earth had detected massive energy discharges near Neptune's orbit. The signals were brief but incredibly powerful. Daehyun had tried to get more information, but all official channels were suddenly silent. Government websites that tracked space activity went offline. Military communications were encrypted. Something was being hidden from the public. Daehyun's sister Minji walked into the lab. She was wearing her military uniform. She worked for the Space Observation Command, a branch of the military that most people did not know existed. Her face was serious. "We need to talk," she said quietly. "Somewhere private." They went to Daehyun's office and closed the door. Minji checked to make sure no one was listening, then sat down heavily in a chair. "What you detected was real," she said. "There was a battle. In our solar system. 3 days ago." Daehyun felt his heart race. "A battle? Between who?" "Aliens," Minji said simply. "A fleet of alien warships entered our system. They were heading toward Earth, and something stopped them. Something destroyed them." Daehyun could not speak for a moment. Aliens, real aliens. Not just microbes on Mars or signals from distant stars, but actual spaceships. Actually here. "What stopped them?" he finally asked. "We don't know exactly," Minji said, "but we think it was one of the old defense stations. From before the silence. That was what historians called the period 3,000 years ago, when human civilization suddenly pulled back from space exploration. All the old records from that time were fragmentary. Most had been deliberately erased. Humanity had been reaching for the stars, building colonies throughout the solar system, and then suddenly stopped. Everything was abandoned. Everyone returned to Earth, and no one alive today knew why. "The old stations were real?" Daehyun asked. "I thought those were myths, stories. They were real," Minji said. "And at least one of them is still active. Still protecting us. The military has been trying to make contact with it for 3 days, but it is not responding to our signals." "What about the aliens? The ones that were destroyed?" "One ship escaped," Minji said. "It fled back to wherever it came from. Which means others know we are here now. Other species. Other civilizations." Daehyun stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city looked normal. People went about their lives. Traffic moved through the streets. No one knew that aliens had tried to invade Earth 3 days ago. No one knew that an ancient guardian had saved them all. "The government is preparing an announcement," Minji continued. "They can't hide this anymore. Too many people detected the energy signatures. Too many questions are being asked. Tomorrow the world will learn that we are not alone in the universe." "How are people going to react?" Daehyun asked. "Badly, probably," Minji said. "Fear, panic, some will want to fight. Some will want to hide. But we don't have a choice anymore. We have been discovered, and according to the data we recovered from the battle, there are thousands of species out there, empires that span hundreds of star systems, civilizations millions of years old, and they all know about us now." "Yes," Minji said. "The alien ship that escaped will report what happened. The word will spread. Every species in the galaxy will want to know who we are and what we can do." Daehyun turned back to his sister. "What happens next?" Minji stood up. Her face showed determination mixed with worry. "The military is forming a contact team. Scientists, linguists, diplomats, people who can speak for humanity if aliens come here peacefully. I recommended you for the science position." "Me? Why?" "Because you are smart and you ask good questions," Minji said. "And because I trust you. We don't know who we can trust anymore. The government has been keeping secrets for 3,000 years. Some people knew about the defense stations. Some people knew why we went silent. But they never told the rest of us. That is going to change now. A soft chime sounded from Minji's communicator. She checked it and her expression changed. It is starting. A ship just entered the outer solar system. Not hostile. Broadcasting greetings in multiple languages. They want to talk. Daehyun felt everything shift in that moment. Humanity had been alone for so long, hidden for so long, but now the galaxy had found them, and nothing would ever be the same again. The diplomatic ship entered Earth's solar system slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions on every frequency. Ambassador Kelros stood on the bridge, watching the blue planet grow larger on the view screen. He had seen thousands of worlds in his long life, but this one made him nervous. Somewhere out there, hidden in the darkness, was the Guardian that had destroyed the Valkyrie fleet. He hoped it would recognize his ship as non-threatening. Any response from the planet? Kelros asked. His communication officer checked the instruments. Multiple radio signals. They have detected us. Some signals appear to be civilian broadcasts, news reports about our arrival. Others are military in nature, encrypted. And there is something else. The officer paused. A very old signal coming from beyond the outer planets. The same source that destroyed the Valkyrie. What does it say? Just one word repeated. Wait. Kelros understood. The Guardian was telling them to stop where they were. Not to come closer, not yet. The humans would decide when and if to make contact. On Earth, Daehyun sat in a government conference room with 24 other people. Scientists, military officers, linguists, and politicians filled the space. Everyone looked tired. They had been working for 3 days straight, preparing for this moment. The Prime Minister stood at the head of the table. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. The alien ship is holding position near Mars orbit. They are waiting for us to respond. We need to decide what we are going to say. A general in uniform spoke up. We should tell them nothing. We should let the Guardian destroy their ship like it destroyed the Valkyrie. Show them we are strong. That would be foolish, said an older diplomat. These aliens came peacefully. They did not attack. If we destroy them, we make enemies of everyone. We already have enemies, the general replied. The Valkyrie will want revenge. Better to show strength now. Daehyun raised his hand hesitantly. May I speak? The Prime Minister nodded. Go ahead. I have been studying the signal patterns from the Guardian station, Daehyun said. It has been sending messages to Earth for 3 days. Messages that our current technology can barely detect. I managed to decode some of them. Everyone turned to look at him. What do they say? The Prime Minister asked. The Guardian calls itself Sentinel. It was built by our ancestors 3,000 years ago, during what it calls the Exodus. Humanity discovered that the galaxy was dangerous. Young civilizations were often conquered or destroyed by older ones. So our ancestors decided to hide. They abandoned the colonies, returned to Earth, and built Guardians to protect us while we developed in secret. Why did no one tell us about this? A politician demanded. Why keep it secret? Because the people who knew are long dead, Daehyun explained. The records were hidden or destroyed. Sentinel says it was instructed to remain silent unless Earth was threatened. It was supposed to let humanity rediscover space travel naturally, without knowing about the Guardians. But the Valkyrie attack changed everything. Minji, sitting beside her brother, added her own information. Sentinel also says there are other Guardian stations throughout the solar system. 5 in total. All of them are now active. All of them are watching, and all of them are waiting for instructions from us. The room fell silent. The implications were enormous. Humanity had weapons, real weapons. Ancient weapons built by their ancestors who had clearly been more advanced than anyone alive today. The Prime Minister made a decision. We will speak to the aliens. We will be honest with them. We are humanity. We have been here all along. We were protecting ourselves. And we want peace, but we will defend our home if necessary. She looked at Daehyun. You decoded Sentinel's messages. Can you send a message back? I think so, Daehyun said. But I don't know if it will listen to me. Try, the Prime Minister ordered. Tell it that we want to meet with the aliens peacefully. Ask it not to attack unless they threaten us. 2 hours later, Daehyun stood in a military communication facility, his hands shaking as he typed commands into a terminal. He had spent his whole life studying physics, looking at stars, wondering if anyone was out there. Now he knew the answer, and he was about to talk to an artificial intelligence built by humans 3,000 years ago. He pressed send. The message shot into space at light speed, aimed at the coordinates where Sentinel waited. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the terminal beeped. A response came back faster than should be possible. Text appeared on the screen in perfect modern Korean, which should have been impossible for something built so long ago. Identity confirmed. Daehyun of Earth. Your genetic markers indicate descent from the builders. I will comply with your request. The peaceful vessel will not be harmed, but I must warn you. My sensors detect movement across the galaxy. Many species are sending ships to this system. Some are curious, some are afraid, and some are hostile. Earth is hidden no longer. You must prepare for what comes next. Daehyun read the message twice. His genetic markers. Sentinel had scanned him somehow, analyzed his DNA, and confirmed he was human. The technology required for that was incredible. He typed another message. What do we need to do? Sentinel's response came immediately. Humanity must choose. Remain on Earth and I will protect you. The Guardians can defend the system against most threats, but you will be trapped here, isolated from the galaxy. Or humanity can return to the stars. Reclaim the colonies your ancestors abandoned. Rebuild what was lost. But that path is dangerous. The galaxy is not kind to weak species. It was a choice that would define humanity's future. Stay safe or reach for the stars again. Daehyun reported Sentinel's message to the Prime Minister. Within hours, it was shared with every government on Earth. Debates began. Some countries wanted to stay hidden. Others wanted to explore. The world was divided, but there was no more time for debate. Ambassador Kelros was waiting, and he deserved an answer. The meeting took place in orbit on a neutral space station that Sentinel had constructed in just 12 hours. The station was simple but functional, with rooms designed for both human and alien biology. It was a gesture of goodwill, proof that humanity could build incredible things when necessary. Daehyun and Minji were part of the human delegation. They wore simple suits trying to look professional and calm, though Daehyun's heart was racing. They walked through the station's corridors until they reached a large chamber. Inside, Ambassador Kelros waited. He was not what Daehyun expected. The Hivani looked almost plant-like, with skin that seemed to shimmer in different colors. He was tall, maybe 3 meters, with multiple arms that moved with graceful precision. His eyes were large and kind. I greet you, representatives of humanity, Kelros said through a translation device that made his words clear. I am honored to be the first of my people to meet your species face to face. Minji stepped forward. She was better with people than her brother. We greet you, Ambassador Kelros. We are sorry for the confusion. We have been away from galactic affairs for a long time. 3,000 years, Kelros said. I have read the old records. Humanity was one of the great powers. Your technology was remarkable. Your explorers mapped regions of space that others feared to enter. Then you vanished. We thought you were extinct. We were hiding, Minji said honestly. Our ancestors learned that the galaxy was dangerous. They chose to protect us by keeping us secret. A wise choice, perhaps, Kelros said, but no longer possible. The Velkari know about you. Soon everyone will know. You must decide what role you will play in galactic affairs. Daehyun found his voice. What are our options? Kelros settled into a chair designed for his body type. The galaxy is governed by the Accord, a loose coalition of species that follow certain rules. No genocide, no slavery, no destruction of inhabited worlds. If humanity joins the Accord, you will have protection, but you will also have responsibilities. And if we refuse, Minji asked. Then you are on your own, Kelros said simply. Species outside the Accord have no protections. Anyone can attack you without consequences. The Velkari would love revenge for the ships they lost. It was not really a choice at all. Join or be destroyed eventually. There is something else you should know, Kelros continued. Your Guardian stations. The technology they possess. It is unlike anything the current galaxy has seen. There are species that would go to war to possess that knowledge. You have revealed yourselves at a dangerous time. Daehyun and Minji exchanged glances. They had been thrown into a situation beyond their understanding. But they had to try. We need time, Minji said. Time to discuss this with our people. Time to understand what joining the Accord means. I understand, Kelros said. But be quick. There are ships already on their way here. Some friendly, some not. The galaxy is watching Earth now, and everyone wants to know what humanity will do next. The decision took 3 weeks. Every nation on Earth sent representatives. Every voice wanted to be heard. Some argued for isolation, Others demanded expansion. Religious leaders spoke about destiny. Scientists talked about opportunity. Military commanders warned about threats. It was the largest global discussion in human history. Daehyun attended many of these meetings, though he rarely spoke. He was a scientist, not a politician, but people wanted to hear from him because he had spoken with Sentinel. He had become a bridge between ancient humanity and modern Earth. Minji was busier than her brother. She had been promoted to general and given command of the new Space Defense Force. It was a military branch that did not officially exist a month ago. Now it had thousands of volunteers and access to technology that was being carefully retrieved from Sentinel's databases. The Guardians had much to teach. Sentinel had been sharing information slowly, carefully, not wanting to overwhelm humanity with too much knowledge at once. But even the basic data was revolutionary. New power sources, advanced materials, propulsion systems that could cross the solar system in days instead of months. Earth was waking up. Factories that had been quiet were now working day and night, building new ships based on old designs. Universities created new programs to study the recovered technology. Children studied the stars with new excitement, knowing that humanity would soon walk among them again. But not everyone was happy. There were protests in many cities. People who feared change. People who believed humanity should stay hidden. People who worried that joining the Galactic community would destroy Earth's cultures and identities. Daehyun understood their fears. He shared some of them, but he also knew that hiding was no longer possible. The galaxy knew about Earth now. Ships were coming. Some were already in the outer system, waiting for permission to approach. Ambassador Kelros had returned to his people, but he had left a communication relay so Earth could contact the Accord when ready. On the 42nd day after first contact, the United Earth Council made their announcement. Every screen on the planet showed the same broadcast. The Prime Minister stood before the cameras, representatives from every nation beside her. People of Earth, she began. For 3,000 years, our ancestors protected us by keeping us hidden. They built guardians to watch over our world while we lived in peace. That time has ended. The galaxy has found us. We can no longer hide, she paused, letting her words sink in. After much discussion and debate, we have decided that humanity will join the Galactic Accord. We will take our place among the stars once more. We will explore. We will learn. We will trade and build relationships with other species. But we will also defend ourselves. We will never be victims. We will never be conquered. The broadcast showed images of the Guardian stations, massive and powerful, floating in the darkness. These are our protectors, built by humans for humans. They will remain active. They will remain vigilant. Earth is and will always be protected. Around the world, reactions were mixed. In Seoul, people gathered in the streets, some celebrating, some worried. In New York, crowds cheered. In Moscow, religious leaders prayed for guidance. In Tokyo, scientists began planning expeditions to the old colony sites on Mars. Daehyun watched the broadcast from a command center deep underground. Beside him, Minji monitored defensive systems. They had been preparing for this moment. The announcement would trigger responses across the galaxy. Some good, some bad. How long do you think we have? Daehyun asked his sister. Before what? Minji replied, her eyes on multiple screens showing space around Earth. Before someone tries to test us, to see if we are really as strong as the Valkyrie incident suggested. Minji smiled grimly. Sentinel says there are 3 Valkyrie revenge fleets already approaching. They will arrive in 5 days. The Empire cannot allow the insult of their destroyed ships to go unanswered. 3 fleets, Daehyun said quietly. How many ships? About 60 warships total. Each fleet is twice the size of the one that attacked us before. Can Sentinel stop them? Easily, Minji said. But it won't. We are going to stop them. Daehyun looked at his sister in surprise. We are how? Minji gestured to one of the screens. It showed a shipyard in orbit around Earth, barely visible against the darkness. Inside that shipyard, something was being built using technology recovered from Sentinel's databases. Humanity's first true warship in 3,000 years. We are calling it the Phoenix. It will be ready in 4 days. 1 ship against 60? Daehyun was doubtful. 1 ship built with Guardian technology, Minji corrected. 1 ship with weapons and shields that the Valkyrie have never seen. We need to show the galaxy that we can defend ourselves, that we are not dependent entirely on ancient Guardians. We need to prove that modern humanity is strong. 5 days later, the Valkyrie fleets arrived at the edge of the solar system. They came in formation, weapons ready, shields at maximum. They had learned from Thorak's mistake. This time they would not be surprised. Admiral Kresh commanded the lead fleet. He was old for a Valkyrie, scarred from 100 battles. He had volunteered for this mission personally. The humans had humiliated his people. That insult required blood. All ships advance slowly, Kresh ordered. Watch for the Guardian station. The moment it powers up weapons, we fire everything. Overwhelm it with sheer numbers. But Sentinel did not appear. Instead, a single ship moved out from behind Earth's moon. It was sleek and silver, smaller than a Valkyrie battleship but shaped like a blade. It accelerated toward the fleet with impossible speed. One ship? Kresh laughed. The humans mock us. Destroy it. 20 Valkyrie warships fired at once. Energy beams and missiles filled space. Enough firepower to crack a moon converged on the human vessel. The Phoenix's shields lit up like a star. The attacks hit and simply vanished, absorbed by defensive systems that converted incoming energy into harmless light. The human ship did not slow down. Aboard the Phoenix, Minji sat in the command chair. Around her, a crew of 30 humans operated stations that would have required 300 on an old ship. The technology made everything more efficient. All weapons fire at will, she ordered calmly. The Phoenix's main cannon charged. It was based on Sentinel's designs but scaled down for a ship this size. When it fired, space itself seemed to bend. The beam crossed millions of kilometers in an instant and struck a Valkyrie battleship dead center. The enemy ship's shields collapsed. Its armor vaporized. The vessel broke apart in a silent explosion. Target destroyed, reported the weapons officer. Acquiring next target. The Phoenix moved through the Valkyrie formation like a dancer. It was faster than anything the aliens had seen. Its shields held against everything they threw at it, and its weapons cut through their ships like paper. One by one, Valkyrie warships died. Admiral Kresh watched in horror as his fleet was destroyed. This was not possible. 60 ships against one. They should be winning. But the human vessel was not just a ship. It was a weapon unlike anything in the galaxy. Retreat, Kresh finally ordered. All ships retreat. But it was too late. The Phoenix had already destroyed 40 ships. The remaining vessels tried to flee, but the human ship followed, methodically eliminating each one. Only 5 Valkyrie vessels escaped, jumping to faster-than-light speed before they could be caught. Back on Earth, people watched the battle through broadcasts. They saw their ship, their Phoenix, defeat an entire fleet. They saw proof that humanity could stand against the galaxy. Pride swelled in every heart. Fear turned to confidence. Daehyun watched the broadcast with tears in his eyes. Not from joy, but from understanding. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy in the most violent way possible. They had shown their strength, but they had also shown their willingness to kill. The galaxy would remember this. Minji returned to Earth 3 days later. She was greeted as a hero. Parades were held. Medals were given. But in private, she was exhausted. I killed thousands today, she told her brother. Thousands of living beings who were just following orders. You defended Earth, Daehyun replied. You did what was necessary. I know, Minji said. But that does not make it easier. Ambassador Kelros contacted Earth a week after the battle. His message was brief. The Galactic Accord welcomes humanity. Your application has been approved. The Valkyrie Empire has formally complained about the loss of their fleets, but their complaint has been rejected. They attacked you first, twice. The Accord recognizes your right to self-defense, he paused, then continued. But I must warn you, you have made enemies. The Valkyrie will not forget. Other species fear you now. They see your technology and wonder if you will use it against them. You must be careful. The galaxy is watching everything you do. Daehyun and Minji stood together on a balcony, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, Sentinel still watched. The other Guardians remained at their posts. Earth was protected. Do you think we made the right choice? Daehyun asked. Minji thought for a long moment. I think we made the only choice we could. The galaxy found us. We could not hide anymore. Now we have to prove that we deserve our place among the stars. What if we fail? Then the Guardians will protect us, Minji said. Our ancestors built them for this reason. To give us time. To give us a chance. Now we have that chance. What we do with it is up to us.